Zareh, when you started Animal Logic in 1991, the company was entirely reliant on television commercials. So how did you finance the company, and where did the name come from?
Well, it was a small enterprise. We started with 10 people. Chris Godfrey and I founded the company, and I think the last of the financing was on my credit card. So it was very much small enterprise. You know. It was built out of passion, not out of business principles necessarily. However, I'd come from running a company of many hundreds of people, so I kind of knew what it meant, and it was exciting to start in a small enterprise. So it was personal risk at the end of the day, and the name Animal Logic was because we were in the dawn of the digital era and the video era, and every company in Australia and around the world had some kind of digital video name. In fact, we sort of executed a management buyout of a company called the Video Paintbrush Company, on the back of which we launched Animal Logic, and we wanted to be as different as possible. But there's a little bit of sense to the madness, and that animal refers to instinct and animation, and the human side of things, and logic is obvious with computers and the math side of things.
At in those early days, you would have had some kind of a plan and some kind of ambition. What was the business plan and what were the ambitions?
Look, we were always ambitious in terms of building great relationships and doing great work. And really our business plan started with that basic principle: do great work and good things will come. Having said that, we did have a good understanding of business. We understood how to manage investment and investment cycles, and how to manage the marketing aspect of the company, how to build its profile, where to build the relationships. So the people that were there from day one had good experience in the industry and in the field.
In 1996 you set up Animal Logic Film. That was a very clear statement of ambition. What was that built on? Because in 1996, that was very early days in terms of digital prowess, and certainly in terms of Australian experience in that, it was fairly early. What did you plan to do?
Well, let's trace back the steps then. We started, we built Animal Logic out of the ashes of a company called the Video Paintbrush Company, which was a pioneer digital company, a pioneer around the world. It had a piece of kit, digital kit, that had a single-digit serial number. That's how many of those had been sold. And Video Paintbrush Company was one of those. So we had a history of being first. And when we built Animal Logic, we were really the first company to commit seriously to advertising, visual effects and animation, and to take our presence into Asia, because Australia was in recession. There was Australian advertising at that time was in a really sad state of affairs. So we balanced what we could do out of Australia with the nearest and the most lucrative market we could see at the time, which was English-speaking Asia: Singapore, Malaysia, Hong Kong. And we built good revenues and built a good flow of business as a result. But Asia became crowded with other competitors from Australia and from the region, and margins went down, and it really was obvious that was not the place to continue if we wanted to build our reputation, but also to be healthy as a business. So we backed out of Asia, difficult thing to do, to leave our clients behind, but looked to the US because we felt the quality of the work and the budgets were far superior, and it wasn't a crowded market. There wasn't a lot of international competition in the US. It wasn't a global business yet at that time. And we were very focused on building relationships. In fact, the very first director we ever worked with on a US commercial was Gore Verbinski, now, with a very high stock in Hollywood after Pirates of the Caribbean. And that relationship continued. And in fact, one of the first films we worked on was Mouse Hunt, Gore's first film. So relationships sort of took us into film in one respect. But the other respect of it was that film visual effects, digital technology for film, was just beginning to come of age. That scanning equipment was available. We had access to the technology that was required to be able to be self-sufficient. And we felt that we had the talent and the experience to then push into the major film market of the US, in partnership with the Australian work that we did. So it was another first experience for us, but it was another stepping stone towards building greater relationships and to constantly being innovative as a company, which built our brand.
How much of a financial risk was involved in this expansion, and how did you manage that?
That was one of the biggest risks we took, and once again, you know, as a private company, we didn't have deep pockets, but we risked quite a lot in terms of going into that, and then we made a commitment to the Fox Studios lot, which was a serious, permanent commitment to film, and a statement that we wanted to be seen internationally as a player in the industry, not just as a local player. So there was, you know, there were millions of dollars invested, and at times it appeared that, you know, it was a bit shaky. But over time, once again, built on relationships, that turned a corner. And I guess our first real sort of breakthrough was The Matrix, because it got such international acclaim. We were responsible for so much of that groundbreaking work that it brought work as a result.
Well, just before we get into The Matrix and how you got that, were the local bankers supportive? Were you able to finance that expansion from local financing?
Banks don't want to lend you money if you don't have it. So we never relied on banks and never relied on government, because really there hasn't been much government support for this sector in this country. So no, it was just good fiscal management. It was being sure that we were in the right point in the right cycle. We were investing whilst there was a recession in Australia and feeding the business with offshore work. And then as Australia started to pick up, we were very cautious about not investing too early in that cycle, because there was such a feeding frenzy. We were very sort of cautious about margins. But we did also develop our own technology, which gave us a competitive edge. And as with any sort of software, you create once, you publish many times, and there are some good returns from that. But no institutional support to speak of.
So a lot of equipment involved, a lot of expensive equipment involved. Did you just do normal commercial leasing on that?
Yeah, we leased, we bought, we depreciated. We've always been aggressive about depreciating equipment, because we don't want to pretend something will have a longer life cycle than not, and could be surprised if we use it for longer. But yeah, it was just done with very prudent management.
So how critical did the television commercial business stay at that early stage of development of anamorphic film? Was that still the major cash cow?
Well, 2 points I'd make there is that we've never left an old business behind to start a new. TV commercials in this company today is more successful than it's ever been, despite the fact that we've also got a decent operation of visual effects and animation. And so it was successful, continued to be successful. There's always cycles, and you've got to ride them. And to this day, it's successful, and it's bigger now and more successful than it's ever been. The second point I'd make is that the whole business is built on relationships, and it continues to be to this day. You know, there are relationships we've had since the very first TV commercials we worked on with David Dineen and Bruce Hunt. You know, and without them we wouldn't have a business. But you know, we've kept those relationships to this day. To this day, we work with those two directors, whether they be in film or in commercials. So yeah, we never leave a business behind to start new.
Let's talk a bit about how television commercial work and feature film work coexist, and what are and how symbiotic that relationship in terms of internal training, staffing, culture. Because to most people, they're kind of separate cultures. But do you allow that to be separate?
Yeah, absolutely. The nice thing about having multiple streams of activity or business is that you can ride out the cycles. As we know, this industry is so cyclical that it's the undoing of a lot of smaller companies or a lot of less established companies. And one of our greatest strengths has been that we've often been busy in commercials, not in film, and vice versa. In the strata of crew and personnel, the producers are specialists. They have specialist relationships with their clients and the directors and producers they work with. There are some marquee crew. They can be visual effects supervisors or compositors or animation directors, whoever. They can also be specialists. But then after that, the practices are often the same. It just happens to be that in a commercial you're only on for 4 weeks, in a film you might be on for 4 months or 4 years. So we are able to mix and match, which keeps it all fresh as well. It gives crew training opportunities, because you can be on 10 commercials in a year. You can only be on 1 or 2 films. And on 10 commercials you might get to try 10 different techniques and grow as an artist or as a technician. So we use commercials as an entry opportunity a lot of times, but we also use it as a place to be innovative and experimental. But we do move people around so that we can deal to the cycles, but also to give people opportunities and to keep them fresh.